What if I told you that right now, while you are watching this video, you are running out of time? Not in some distant, dramatic way, not a warning about the end of the world, just quietly, steadily, the same way it happens to all of us. One "I'll do it tomorrow" at a time, one "there's still time" at a time, until one day there simply isn't. Today I want to tell you the story of a young trader named Ravi, a man so busy building his future that he kept postponing the only thing that ever truly mattered, and an old clockmaker who taught him something about time that he almost learned too late. If you've ever said later to someone you love, stay with me. Because this story might change what you do the moment it ends. Ravi was 28 years old, and by every measure the town respected, he was doing everything right. He had built his family's small trading stall into one of the busiest shops on the market street. He worked from sunrise until long after the lanterns were lit. He was saving, building, planning, always one step ahead, always thinking of the next deal, the next season, the next opportunity. His father, a quiet fisherman, lived just at the edge of town by the river. Every few days, the old man would send word, "Come sit with me by the water. I want to tell you about the days before you were born." And every few days, Ravi would send the same reply, "Not today, Baba. Business is busy. Next week, I promise." He meant it every single time. He simply always believed there would be a next week. It was an ordinary Thursday morning when a neighbor came running into Ravi's shop, breathless. "Ravi, your father, he collapsed by the river this morning. They've taken him to the healer." Ravi's ledger slipped from his hands and hit the floor. He ran the entire way to the healer's house, his mind replaying every next week he had ever spoken. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, stacked up over years like unpaid debts he had never planned to leave unpaid. His father survived that morning, but he was weaker now, his hands trembling where they used to be steady, his voice thinner than Ravi remembered. Sitting beside his father's bed that night, Ravi finally asked the question that had been circling his mind for hours. "Baba, how many times did you ask me to sit with you by the river?" His father was quiet for a long moment. "I stopped counting," he said gently. "I only kept hoping." That night, unable to face his ledgers or his empty shop, Ravi wandered the streets until he found himself standing outside a small shop he had passed 1,000 times without ever entering. Baba Gyanesh's clock shop. Dozens of clocks lined every wall, ticking in a chorus that was somehow both chaotic and perfectly calm. The old clockmaker looked up from his workbench, round spectacles catching the lamplight. "You look like a man who just heard a clock stop that he assumed would tick forever, Baba Gyanesh said." Ravi laughed weakly, surprised. "Something like that." "Sit," the old man said, gesturing to a stool among the ticking clocks. "Let an old man show you something you already know, but have forgotten how to see." Baba Gyanesh reached beneath his workbench and placed an old brass-framed hourglass between them. Half its sand had already fallen. "Every person," he said, "is given one of these the day they're born. No one can see how much sand it holds. No one can see how fast it falls. We only know it is falling." He tapped the glass gently, and a few more grains slipped down. "The strange thing," he continued, "is that people spend their sand as if they own an unlimited supply. They say later, they say next week, they say when things settle down, as if the sand will simply wait for them to be ready." He turned the hourglass slowly in his weathered hands. But sand does not wait, Ravi. It does not pause for busy seasons. It does not care how important your ledgers are. It only falls, grain by grain, day by day, whether you are watching or not. Ravi stared at the falling sand, thinking of every next week he had promised his father. "Then what's the point?" he asked quietly, "if it's always running out anyway?" Baba Gyanesh smiled, not unkindly. "The point isn't to stop the sand, boy. No one can. The point is to stop pretending you have more of it than you do." Baba Gyanesh pointed to a small clock on the highest shelf, its hands frozen, silent among the dozens of ticking clocks surrounding it. "That clock," he said, "belonged to my son. It stopped the exact moment he passed, many years ago now. I keep it there, not because I'm sentimental about a broken clock, but because I need to look at it every single day." He looked at Ravi. "When my son was alive, I told him later more times than I can count. I was building this shop. I was busy, important, always one step ahead. I believed, the way you believe, that there would always be a next week."
His voice didn't break, but it carried decades of weight. There wasn't, and no amount of skill with clocks could turn his hourglass back over. The room was silent, except for the ticking of dozens of other clocks. Each one, Ravi realized, a reminder the old man had built around himself on purpose. "I don't tell you this to frighten you," Baba Gyanesh said. "I tell you this because your father's hourglass is still falling. Yours is too. And right now, tonight, you still have grains left to spend on the people who matter."
Ravi sat with that for a long moment, watching the hourglass on the workbench, grain after grain disappearing into the bottom chamber. "I always thought I was being responsible," he said quietly, "building something for him, for our family. I thought the business was how I showed I cared." "It was," Baba Gyanesh said, "but a business can wait for you tomorrow. People cannot always wait that long. The sand doesn't ask what your reasons were. It only asks what you did with the time it gave you." Ravi thought of his father, weak in that healer's bed, still hopefully waiting by the river every few days, despite years of empty promises. "I stopped counting," his father had said. "I only kept hoping." Something in Ravi's chest finally, quietly, broke open.
Ravi did not return to his ledgers that week. Instead, every morning, he walked to the river and sat beside his father, not for an hour stolen between deals, but for as long as his father wanted to talk. He learned about the years before he was born. He learned his father's real name for the river, the one his own grandfather had used. He learned things he would have lost forever if that Thursday morning had gone differently. His shop still ran. His business still grew, slower now, but steadier, built by a man who had learned that success meant nothing measured against an empty hourglass. Years later, when his own children asked him to sit and talk, Ravi never once said "next week." He simply sat down. "I want to speak to you directly now. Somewhere in your life, right now, there is a version of next week that you've been quietly promising someone. A parent, a friend, a version of yourself you keep postponing. I want you to remember what Baba Gyanesh taught Ravi. Your hourglass is falling right now, whether you're watching it or not. It does not pause for busy seasons. You don't need to fear that. You only need to stop pretending you have more of it than you do. Whoever you've been meaning to call them today.
Whatever you've been meaning to say it today. Whatever you've been postponing until later is not a guarantee. It never was.
If this story woke something up in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. They may be running out of time without even knowing it. Tell them, while there's still sand left to spend.